Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtike. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Caitanya Manobhishtam Thapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Bhunati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gokrishna Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirviseshasha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nanda
Advaita
Sripadita Gadadhara Shiva
Gaura Bhakta
Gaura Bhaktavar
Krishna Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Hare Rama Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
So we continue our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam today of Canto 2, Chapter 10. We are on text 24. We are speaking about the universal form of the Lord. So today is Janmashtami, and this matter of creation is also a pastime of the Lord. Same as he performed his Vrindavan pastime. This what we are hearing about the universal form. This is also Krishna's pastimes. So 24. Hastau ruru hatustasya nana karma chikirshaya tayostu balvan indra adanam ubhayashrayam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength and Indra, the demigod in heaven, became manifested as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigod. In every item, we can note with profit that the sense organs of the living entity are never independent at any stage. The Lord is known as the Lord of the senses, Rishikesha. Thus, the sense organs of the living entities are manifested by the will of the Lord, and each organ is controlled by a certain type of demigod. No one, therefore, can claim any proprietorship of the senses. The living entity is controlled by the senses are controlled by the demigods, and the demigods are the servants of the Supreme Lord. That is the arrangement in the system of creation. So we are always thinking, oh, I want to see this eyes, I can open it at any time I want. I want to eat food and digest it, I can do that at any time I want. I want to pick up something, I can do it at any time I want. But Bhagavatam says, how do we have these senses? Why do we have these senses? Because the desire arose in the Lord. So that's why these senses were created. So He is the master of our senses, not we. We are mistakenly thinking. That is our illusion. That is the Maya, that we are thinking these senses belong to me, this body belongs to me. But actually, it's all belonging to Krishna. That's why he's called Rishikesh, the master of the senses. And so we are supposed to engage the senses in his service. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. By engaging our senses in the service of the master of the senses, we can have the highest benediction. We can see the Lord face to face just by engaging the service in his, the senses in his service. And then we are being told that each sense is controlled by the demigod, and of course the demigods are all controlled by Krishna. So the ultimate controller is Krishna, and this is the system. The whole thing is controlled ultimately by the Supreme Lord, and there is no independence either of the material nature or of the living entity. The illusioned living entity who claims to be the Lord of his senses is under the clutches of the external energy of the Lord. As long as a living entity continues to be puffed up by his tiny existence, he is to be understood to be under the stringent control of the external energy of the Lord. And there is no question of liberation from the clutches of illusion Maya, however much one may declare himself a liberated soul. So we might think we are liberated, but that's just our mind. That's our mental speculation. Till the time we are thinking that we are the controller, that we are independent of Krishna, till that time we are under this illusion of Maya. You know, thinking, we can think anything. We can think we are the controller, we can think we are the queen or the king of the universe, but that does not factually happen. Is this okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we always saying that the demigods are controlling our senses. So here is Bhagavatam is saying that in this verse, Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 24, how the demigods are all controlling our senses. And the demigods are controlled by Krishna. And that's why there are 33 crores demigods, you know, because there's so much part of management of the universe, even our body. There's so many different movements we do, so many different parts, and each part and each movement is controlled by a demigod. So text 25. And imagine if we have to please all the 33 crores of demigods. How can we do that, you know? Because we are indebted to them. They are helping us in our function. And that's why we are recommended, just please Krishna. We won't be able to please all 33 crore demigods separately. So just please Krishna. And then all the demigods automatically will be pleased. So text 25, Gatim jigisha tahapado ruruhate abhikamikam padbhayam yagya swayam havyam karma bihi kriyate nirbihi. Thereupon, because of his desiring to control movement, his legs became manifested, and from the legs, the controlling deity named Vishnu was generated. By his personal supervision of this act, all varieties of human being are busily engaged in dutiful occupational sacrifice. Every human being is engaged in his particular occupational duty, and such activities are visible as men go hither and thither. This is very prominently visible in big cities of the world. People are going all over the cities with great concern from one place to another. This movement is not limited only to the cities, but is also visible outside the cities, from one place to another, or from one city to another, by different means of vehicles. Men are moving by cars and rails on the roads, by subways within the earth, and by planes in the sky for the purpose of business success. But in all these movements, the real purpose is to earn wealth for comfortable life. For this comfortable life, the scientist is engaged, the artist is engaged, the engineer is engaged, the technician is engaged, all in different branches of human activity. But they do not know how to make the activities purposeful to fulfill the mission of human life. Because they do not know this secret, all their activities are targeted towards the goal of sense gratification without control. And therefore, by all this business, they are unknowingly entering into the deep regions of darkness. So we can see that is the current situation of the world right now. We are all so busy traveling from one place to another, as Prabhupada is saying. We are going within the earth. The subway is within the earth, deep inside the earth. And then the planes are in the sky. And on the earth also, we have the road. So everywhere we are going. And why we are doing that? Because we want to make a living, earn wealth. Why we want to earn wealth? Because with that wealth, we can purchase the comforts of life. And why we want to have these comforts of life? Because we think that by having a comfortable life, we will be happy. And this is our illusion. We are all the time, all of us are engaged, all our total energy is going to make this body as comfortable as possible. Because we feel that as this body, the more comfortable the body will be, the more happier we'll be. And but our experience shows that no matter how comfortable we are, we still feel, oh, but I wish if I'm not yet very comfortable, but this person has a higher level of comfort, so that's why he should be happier than me. So let me strive to get a higher comfort level, and then I will be happier. And each of us keeps doing that, But this is just illusion. It's not that the other person is more happier than us because they have a more comfortable life than us. No, each of us is struggling, and that struggle is called karshati, from the ant up to Brahma. Each one is struggling in this material world, karshati, because we are thinking we are the body. So that's the reason, that's the illusion. Because they have been captivated by the external energy of the Supreme Lord, they have completely forgotten the Supreme Lord Vishnu, and thus they have taken it for granted that this life, as presently manifested under the conditions of material nature, is all in all for enjoying the highest amount of sense gratification. But such a wrong conception of life cannot give anyone the desired peace of mind. And thus, in spite of all advancement in knowledge, by use of the resources of nature, no one is happy in this material civilization. The secret is that at every step, they should try to execute sacrifices toward the path of world peace. So no matter how much we try to find happiness in this material world by doing a lot of endeavor, by collecting a lot of things, by getting more beautiful, by getting more fit. Of course, we need to keep ourselves fit, we need wealth, but thinking that these things are going to make us happy, that's the illusion. We need to do things as a matter of duty. We have a body, we have to keep it fit, we have to maintain it. We are in this body, so we have to have certain level, we need a shelter, we need food, we need clothing, so we need to work towards that. Now, that's okay, but thinking that these things are going to give us happiness, that is the illusion. So, the Bhagavad Gita 18.45 to 46 also advises the same secret in the following verses. Sve sve karmani abhirataha samsiddhim labhate naraha swakarma nirataha siddhim yatha vindati takshinu yatha pravritir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. The Lord said to Arjuna, just hear from me how one can attain the highest perfection in life simply by discharging his specified occupational duty. Man can attain the highest perfection of life by worshipping the Supreme Lord and by performing sacrifice for the sake of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is all-pervading and by whose control every living being acquires his desired facilities according to his personal propensity. So Krishna is saying we are trying to get the perfection, we are trying to get highest perfection, but the highest perfection is only in when we are connected to Krishna, when we can relate our activities to him, when we can worship him. That is the highest perfection. The highest perfection is not to become the richest or the most beautiful or the most knowledgeable or anything else that we may think, or the best cook or I don't know, we have so many things that we create. But the highest perfection is worshipping the Supreme Lord Krishna. That is the highest perfection. And that can be easily achieved in this Kali Yuga by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So there is no harm in having different propensities in life because every human being is proportionately independent to chalk out the plan of his life by different occupations. But one should make it a point in his life to know perfectly well that he is not independent absolutely. One is certainly under the control of the Supreme Lord and under different agencies. Knowing this, one should make it a point that by his work and the result of his labor, he serves the Supreme Lord as prescribed by the authorities, expert in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So right now we may not want to do things, because Krishna will be happy, let me do that. But we might say, this makes me happy, so let me do it and offer it to Krishna. And that's perfectly all right. That's perfectly all right. We like to do certain activity, so we can do that activity and offer the result to Krishna. And by this way, we are establishing our relationship with Krishna. And why should we offer the result to Krishna? Because our ability is given to us by Krishna. We are just seeing that our senses are given to us by Krishna. Not only the senses are given, but the senses are controlled also by Krishna. So everything is given to us by Krishna. So it is our duty then to offer him these, to offer him the results of our activities. For performing such occupational duties of life, the leg is the most important instrument of the body, because without the help of the legs, one cannot move from one place to another. And therefore, the Lord has special control over the legs of all human beings, which are meant for performing yagyas. So the Lord is himself controlling the legs of the human beings in the form of Lord Vishnu. And then with these legs, we are supposed to go to places of pilgrimage, go to the temple, do whatever activity we are doing, and offer the result to Krishna. And when we offer the result to Krishna, that is called yagya. Yagya doesn't mean only that we light a fire and chant the mantras. No, but any activity if we do and we offer that result to Krishna, that activity becomes a yagya. For example, if we are going to cook, so we are going to go to the market, we are going to buy the ingredients, we are going to come, cut, chop, cook. Everything becomes yagya because we are going to offer it to the Lord. Any questions or comments?
I just wanted to ask, as you mentioned that the Vishnu was created, so which Vishnuji was the one that was creating, like Garbhodakshai, Mahavishnu, or which one who was creating the movement of the legs?
Well, we know that everything over here in this material world is Kshirodakshai Vishnu is controlling, because he's the Paramatma, right? So he's the one who is actually, he's the one who is here in this material world with us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Text 26. Nirabhidyata shishno vai prajanandamritarthinaha upastha asit kamanam priyatad ubhayashrayam. Thereupon, for sexual pleasure, begetting offspring, and tasting heavenly nectar, the Lord developed the genitals, and thus there is the genital organ and its controlling deity, the Prajapati. The object of sexual pleasure and the controlling deity are under the control of the genitals of the Lord. The heavenly pleasure for the conditioned soul is sexual pleasure, and this pleasure is tasted by the genitals. The woman is the object of sexual pleasure, and both the sense perception of sexual pleasure and the woman are controlled by the Prajapati, who is under the control of the Lord's genitals. The impersonalist must know from this verse that the Lord is not impersonal, for he has his genitals on which all the pleasurable objects of sex depend. No one would have taken the trouble to maintain children if there were no taste of heavenly nectar by means of sexual intercourse. This material world is created to give the conditioned souls a chance for rejuvenation, for going back home, back to Godhead, and therefore generation of the living being is necessary for upkeep of the purpose of creation. So the Lord has his genitals, and that's the reason we have the genitals. And there is pleasure in the sexual activity, and that's the reason, in spite of maintaining a family is so difficult, it requires so much time and energy, but because there is this pleasure, we are still willing to have the children and maintain a family. And the reason the whole creation is for us to go back to Godhead, to realize that this is not our home, this is not our permanent place. Sexual pleasure is an impetus for such action, and as such, one can even serve the Lord in the act of such sexual pleasure. The service is counted when the children born of such sexual pleasure are properly trained in Krishna consciousness. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that when there is union between man and woman for the purpose of having a Krishna conscious soul to invite, that is Krishna. That is Krishna. So Prabhupada is saying that the impersonalists, because the impersonalists, they say that God has no form, he has no senses, no eyes, no legs, no hands, no genitals. Here Prabhupada is saying the Lord has genitals also, so how can he be impersonal when the whole world is under this sexual pleasure? And that's the reason we are still here in this material world, because of this sexual pleasure. We have to give it up to be able to go back home. So the whole idea of I'm sorry?
Why? Sorry, I just wanted to ask, why is it compared to the heavenly nectar?
Because this is the highest pleasure that we can find in this material world. Is the sexual.
The human being? The human being?
For all the living entities.
Oh, all the living entities.
For all the living entities. It is the highest pleasure that we can find in this material world. And that is because of this pleasure that we are still here in this material world. Prabhupada keeps saying this in many places. If it was not for this pleasure, then we wouldn't take the trouble to maintain families, to beget children. The only pleasure is in the activity of the sex. After that, it's all so much energy and time and efforts are needed. straight from as soon as the woman gets pregnant, she has to undergo so many bodily changes, so many difficulties. The process of childbirth is so difficult. The process of bringing up children, so much time, energy, emotions are needed, money is needed. The man, the woman, both husband, wife have to work hard to maintain a family. More and more things are needed, proper houses needed. So you see everywhere then the energy, so much energy is needed for that pleasure. So this is the highest pleasure that we can get here. That's the reason we are willing to go through all these things. If there was no pleasure, we wouldn't do all these things. You know.
But then we have to give up, right? This pleasure.
Yes, we have to give it up. Till the time we don't give it up, we will still be in this material world.
So why was it given to us?
This is the whole process for us to realize that this world is created to give a chance for rejuvenation and going back home, back to Godhead. We told Krishna we want to enjoy separate from you. You know, we got that desire to enjoy separate.
It's an impediment, no? That's what it's causing, right? So why was it given to us? I understand that, yeah, you know, it's for offspring, like, you know, you beget a children, you get child, and you make that soul, that child, Krishna conscious.
Yes.
But then besides that,
besides that, we have to clean our heart, you know. It's because we want to keep enjoying with, you know, actually, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he said that when a soul desires sexual pleasure, it's actually wanting to have the connection with Krishna, because we are missing Krishna so much. And we are thinking that we are going to find that pleasure of being together with Krishna through sex. Because actually being with Krishna is the highest pleasure for the soul, because Krishna is the source of all pleasure. He's the source of all happiness. And we are mistakenly, because we want to forget Krishna. So we want to experience pleasure without Krishna, you know, and which is not possible actually. And so he lets us taste this through the sexual pleasure. Actually, there is no pleasure without Krishna, because for the soul, a soul, you know, when we realize that we are not this body, we won't be able to live without Krishna for a moment. Like now, for millions of lifetimes, we have forgotten him, right? But when we are truly situated in our real position, not one moment can we live without Krishna. Immediately we are going to be with him. Like that.
But by letting us taste, he's taking us away from him.
I'm sorry.
We are going for,
exactly, yeah.
by letting us
feel.
taste, like as you mentioned, like he's letting us taste this pleasure, then we are going away from him more, because if we get involved more and more in this, then we get addicted sometimes, and then we are going away from him.
Yes, but because he loves us, right?
Yeah.
Because
so the
he
free
loves
will.
us unconditionally.
Yeah,
he
the
gives us free will, unconditional love. You know,
that we have to leave it, like how he said, renunciate. We have to leave the things, right?
Yes. And you know what is our free will? What is our true independence? The choice. We choose Krishna or we choose Maya. That is the only thing at each and every moment. Because many of us say, oh, I don't have a choice. I have a family to maintain. I have these duties to do. I am a student. I have to study, whatever. We say we don't have choice. But actually our true choice at every moment is, am I choosing Krishna or am I choosing Maya? That is our true choice.
So he's observing us every moment, right? He knows it.
Yes, because he's in our heart as Paramatma.
Yeah.
He knows our thoughts. He knows our desires. He knows our desire. Is the example Prabhupada gives this analogy in Bhagavad Gita, that as when we are just passing by a fragrant flower, we don't even pick up the flower. We don't even, put our nose to it, but automatically we will get the smell, the fragrance of the flower, right? Because we have a nose and the power of smelling. So Krishna, because he's sitting so close to us, he automatically knows our desires.
Wow.
Yeah. So Prabhupada gives this analogy in the Bhagavad Gita. So now this material world is, do you all want to stop here at 7:30?
Is it very long? Can we finish this one?
Okay, we can read this then.
Yeah,
Sexual pleasure is an impetus for such action, and as such, one can even serve the Lord in the act of such sexual pleasure. Oh, we did that. The whole idea of material creation is to revive the dormant God consciousness of the living entity. In forms of life other than the human form, sexual pleasure is prominent without any motive of service for the mission of the Lord. But in the human form of life, the conditioned soul can render service to the Lord by creating progeny suitable for the attainment of salvation. So if we are in a life of a dog or a pig, we cannot even offer this service to Krishna. But in the human form of life, even sexual pleasure we can offer to Krishna if we can train the children to become Krishna conscious. One can beget hundreds of children and enjoy the celestial pleasure of sexual intercourse, provided he's able to train the children in God consciousness. Otherwise, begetting children is on the level of the swine. Rather, the swine is more expert than the human being because the swine can beget a dozen piglets at a time, whereas the human being can give birth to only one at a time. So Prabhupada is saying that the pigs are even more expert in enjoying sexual pleasure than the human being. A human being will have only one child at a time. A swine can give a dozen children at a time. So they are more expert in sexual pleasure also, but a human being can offer this service to Krishna. So one should always remember that the genitals, sexual pleasure, the woman and the offspring are all related in the service of the Lord. And one who forgets this relationship in the service of the Supreme Lord becomes subjected to the threefold miseries of material existence by the laws of nature. So here the word woman is mentioned. So for the man is the woman and for the woman is the man. You know, wherever in the scriptures, whenever one of the gender is written, if we are of the other gender, then the opposite sex is to be understood that way. So perception of sexual pleasure is there even in the body of the dog, but there is no sense of God consciousness. The human form of life is distinct from that of the dog by the perception of God consciousness. So yeah. So that's what Krishna is saying, that don't have children like dogs and hogs. Have children like human beings. Teach them God consciousness. Make this life their last life. Bhagavatam says that we shouldn't even become parents if we cannot give Krishna consciousness to our children. Bhagavatam says that. So, but we just give the Krishna consciousness to them. Whether they accept it or not, that's their independent choice again. We cannot interfere in their free will. You know?
Right.
So we can stop here then for today. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
Wishing everyone a very happy Janmashtami.
Happy Janmashtami.
Thank you.
Happy
Happy
Janmashtami.
Janmashtami to all.
Ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur
Ki jai.
Bhagwan ki jai, Hari Hari Bol,
Hari
Hare
Hari